Hello there, friends, subscribers. We're now going to move into the realm of 3-octave scales and the virtues that make a successful 3-octave scale. I'd like to discuss framing the hand and framing a 3-octave scale as a concept to get started. This should be the notion that if we want to have each individual small action be as natural as possible, the outer fingers of the hand should be in a relaxed but still firm frame for every tetrachord shape that we encounter on our way up. And the best way to do that is to have the fingers down. If we're doing an A major scale, for example, the outer fingers on the G string would be the D and the A. So I would suggest that we find a way to get this frame comfortable and then organize our whole steps and half steps within that, relaxing the thumb. Take it off and put it back lower than you think and maybe a little forward so that there's an open V to the inside of the hand on this side. You see an open V, not this, but an open V. You should also, when the forefingers are organized, have space between all of the knuckles, and that's not by forcing them, it's just by finding the ideal way of lining them up. And then we should be able to lift and drop each of the fingers independently without moving below the base knuckle of the hand. The frame would be the same on the D string, and I would encourage you to leave the 3 and 4 down at least when you drop the next frame, the next finger on the D string, so that we are mastering the skill of the string crossing as well. Again, observing the rule of not squeezing in the inside of the E string. It's a very common thing. It's why people have a very difficult time connecting vibrato from a 4th finger on a lower string to a 1st finger on an upper string, or vice versa. If the hand is locked anywhere at the moment that we're doing this kind of a lateral crossing, if that causes squeezing of the neck and locking of any of the first joints, that vibrato is kaput, gone. So then you have the frame of the 4th, again, between an E and an A here. And you'll have the A string. The tetrachord would be B to E. But we're not using the 4th finger there because we'll shift after the 2nd finger. And we won't use the 4th finger until after that first shift to the D natural, after the C sharp to here. I still would encourage knowing that shape. And when you get here, frame the G sharp. And remember, none of these frames should be rigid in any way. They should all have the ability to lengthen or draw closer, okay? And more on that later. But if the hand is rotated properly so that this isn't too far away from the string, the 4th finger should be able to drop. And you should, again, still have the open V to the thumb, because we don't want to lock the hand. That's something you have to be fanatical about. So then you have this frame. The next one is basically from an A to a D, but we won't be using anything after the B in that frame, because after this B natural, we'll be shifting up to a C sharp. Nonetheless, still good to know that frame. The next frame is from a C sharp to an F sharp, and again, I want only 2 points of contact, the fingers that are down and the thumb. If you put a 3rd part of the hand in contact anywhere, you'll lock. So just these 2 points, and then organize the whole step and the half step to the 2 again, space between all knuckles. Because that gives velocity potential. They're not impeding one another for the lifts and drops. Okay? Then the final one, you have the frame of the E to the A that you just heard. From here. Okay? Now, we have, from the 1 octave scale that I taught previously, we have 2 octaves of descending. We can either go all the way 4, 3, 2, 1 and all the way back to 3rd position and drop the 4. That's one option, yeah? That's one option. Or we can go back a half step and then shift after the first finger a D natural to a C sharp in 3rd position. Okay, so 1 is a larger shift, placing a 4 on a D. 1 is a smaller shift, a shift of a 4th, placing the 3rd finger afterwards. And you should pay very, very careful to what I taught in the first class on the 1 octave scale, that when you, whether you use the first fingering of the second, pardon my language, the first or second fingering, regardless, that this finger has to go relax back to an A, and the 4 has to fall relaxed in its frame if you use that fingering. Or if you do this one with the tritone tetrachord, all whole step, that you go back to an A natural, yeah, and then that this is comfortable. Okay, so our frames. C sharp to F sharp, I forgot one. And all of the fingers are collapsible. Remember the rules. All of these are collapsible and the hand can move back from any point. So it's turned well, but it's not locked in that turned position. You understand? Otherwise we can't get a nice sound comfortably. Yeah? So the goal would be to practice that. And you're also practicing intervallically going from the outer portions of that frame towards each of the other fingers without moving the hand, and checking constantly that the shoulder is relaxed. If you do that, everything will go better when you try to do the scale. Next step, we're going to do a 24-note system, okay? I like using the Hermali system for fingering, starting with the second finger, going to the leading tone, and then repeating the top note. But for the key of G, starting on the open G, key of A flat and key of A, we're going up to the median. So we'll go from the G to a B, then back to an A. Many of you probably already know this. So that we'd be going A, C sharp, B. Yeah? Okay, and at the end of the scale, we'll repeat those 2 notes. Now, I told you that virtuosity is the fanatical application of a limited set of virtues or values to every aspect of a task. There's also something very important in scales, though, called correlation. Because the bow in the 24-note system is traveling at the same speed in the slowest version of the scale as when we're doing all 24 notes in one bow, which is obviously 24 times faster. The bow speed is still just as slow. That is so that the student's ear, or the player's ear, can always be tracking the quality of the bow through its entire length, even if we're crossing through strings, that we're monitoring that sound and how the arm weight is applied to the string the whole time. So what does that mean? It means that there are, after the first scale, where we have one note to a bow, every subsequent one, we have an additional left-hand action, even though the bow is traveling at that same slow speed. So around the halfway point of the bow, we drop the finger. Now here, at the bow change, we lift and at the third finger, and at the halfway point, we lift the second finger, etc., etc. Well, all of those motions, when we have the extra motions here, or a string crossing, they can all cause various tensions. And the best way to isolate them is to do something called a chain bowing. So you'd practice in the middle of the bow, not too much bow. That allows you to tell whether or not the action that you undertook was accurate, and you can go back to the previous note and correct it, and use a metronome when you're doing it, so that you're very specific about when you want to lift and drop your fingers. Now, that's much more important than how strongly you strike. The suddenness of the motion, the definitive action, that everything is a clean. That creates the articulation, not clasping. Doesn't create it. All of the fingers feel like a bounce. So it doesn't take anything but an impact to create articulation. And that doesn't take nearly as much strength as we think. I would encourage you instead to focus much more of the strength of your lifts, actually. To build up the muscles on this side of your arm, and to stop overbuilding the ones that clench down, because they don't help us. So start by doing that with a metronome. Click, 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 click. Release in the left hand, release. Now, anticipate the next note, grace notes. So that the impact comes before the bow change, and the vibrato is immediate. And eventually get rid of that, and you'll be leading with your left hand. Again, I'm trying to really be strict about not lurching to the new position. Yeah, this will help you. Then you practice 2 notes to a bow, 3 notes to a bow, 4, 6, 8, and 12. I will be producing a supplement to this video next on what I want you to think about in your right hand while you do that. But I think that you should view them separately and practice the open string exercises that I'm about to teach in the next video. Bye. Oh, if you like my videos, please like and share, and subscribe to my page, and tell friends to subscribe to my page. I'd like to help as many people as possible, anyone that thinks they can benefit from anything I'm teaching. And once all of the scales are up, if you're interested in written out fingering patterns for any of this, I'll be happy to share with you how you can get your hands on those. All right. Thanks a lot.